We are here to talk about Brotherhood of the Wolf, a film
Hmm.
it's over 20 years old now. It's just getting a snazzy home entertainment restoration. I know it's a film that in a lot of your interviews, it's a title that comes up that people want to know about. What do you think it is about this film that makes it so special for people?
I think there are a lot of elements that people find entertaining, and I think it's so different. Christophe Gans, he's a fantastic storyteller, and he's so unique, and he has style, and he incorporated into Brotherhood of the Wolf, of course, the story based off of actual history, and then he played his take on it. And then you have the romance and the politics and the action, uh, the detailed costumes in almost everything shot on location. It's uniquely a Christophe Gans sensibility, and I think he incorporated so many different genres that people weren't used to seeing in one film. The horror aspect and quasi Hong Kong French kung fu action, and then all of the things that I just mentioned. And I feel like he was able to make it work. And I think even for people that feel it didn't work, it was something different and entertaining.
Yeah, and it definitely did work. I think it's one of the highest grossing foreign language films of ever in America. I think it's definitely still up
Yes.
there within the top 100. So it definitely did something right.
Yes, I
And
agree.
I think I'm right in saying that whilst a lot of the characters in the film were based off of real people, as you say, it's sort of based on a true account. Your character of Manny was actually one that Christophe wrote with you in mind. How did you feel, one, when he told you that, and then what was your reaction when you sat down and read the part? What made you go, okay, yeah, and this is somebody that I want to play?
Well, I had already had the great fortune of working on Crying Freeman with Christoph. So I knew how wonderful he is. Uh, and of course, I was very honored to have been thought for this role. I knew it was going to be interesting because Christoph is just interesting. And I knew it was going to be different, but I had no idea how much I would love it until reading the script. I mean, just the first the opening page already got me, you know, and then these very interesting characters, in the Pyrenees Mountains in France, and um, yeah, I was. So to answer your question, I was very honored, very grateful. Oh my gosh, and blown away by reading the script. Yeah.
I read that you did a lot of preparation for this role. I think
Yes.
you studied the Mohawk Indian culture, you became fluent in French, you learned to ride a horse. Are you always that thorough when it comes to preparing for a role?
I try to be. I
Yeah.
mean, the great thing is that for Brotherhood of the Wolf, we actually had time to prepare. So I went to school in Germany, so I had some French, but I hadn't spoken or practiced in many, many years. So it gave me a great reason and opportunity to relearn, refresh, and learn more French. Uh, of course, with the Mohawk culture and customs, we talked with the elders, and fortunately, I was approved, and I had a wonderful consultant to work with me with the just learning about the culture of this nation, of their nation. And then I'd been on horses a few times, just on these, trail rides as a very much beginner rider. And then Christoph set me up with an incredible teacher to learn how to gallop and ride uh, as close to someone who had been learning to ride since he was a kid as possible. you know. So it was a, very, very much a joy to have time to prepare as much as we did. Yeah.
And as you mentioned earlier, the film, a lot of it is outside in beautiful locations. I
Yes.
think that must have helped you get into the character. I was just wondering what that experience was like. 'Cause I think the majority of this film is sort of outside in some way or another. And some of your costumes, they don't look the warmest.
Yeah. You're right. So, really, the great thing is, at least from my part, with the exception of one day in the studio, everything was on location, and it was quite a treat because I did not have to pretend I was looking at something. What I was looking at was actually there. We were in nature, and it's one of those stories that takes place, a lot of it in nature. So really, I just needed to be present and breathing and taking it all in. And what I saw was what you folks saw in the movie. Yes. In terms of clothing, the opening sequence was interesting because Samuel Le Bihan and I, Fonzac and Manny, were wearing these long trench coats. Underneath those trench coats, for that opening sequence, in the rain and mud, I had a wetsuit on, a surfing wetsuit. So, and then these heavy boots. And, once the rain hit, the leather just started soaking up all the water, and it was heavy and dirty, but it was perfect for what we were doing. I mean, I couldn't help but be present just to try to get the moves and all that sloshing around in the mud. And then perhaps what you were alluding to in terms of some of my clothing not being exactly warm, you are correct, right? Running around shirtless with a loincloth, in very cold air. It wasn't exactly comfortable, but again, it was appropriate for what we were doing, what Manny was doing at that time. And, to prepare for that, what I would do wherever we were, wherever we were on location, once it got really cold at night, I would intentionally just put on my tennies, my runners, some shorts, and a t-shirt or tank top. And whether it was snowing or raining or windy or whatever, I would run half an hour to 45 minutes every night just to acclimate and get used to the elements. So to answer your question, if I prepare like that all the time, as much as I can, yes. As much as I can, yes.
And one thing I didn't realize until I was sort of looking earlier on is that the director of photography of this is also the one from John Wick 3.
The incredible Dan Lausten,
yeah,
yes.
I mean, and
yes.
I mean, visually, they're both stunning films, but they're very, very different. As we said, Brotherhood of the Wolf is very out with nature, and then the John Wick films are all like super industrial, neon lighting, reflections. How was it when sort of reuniting with him and then seeing him work in this different sort of workspace?
Oh, it was wonderful. It's always good to see Dan Lausten, and the great thing is, that visually it's going to be spectacular. Whatever he does is fantastic. Yes, we worked on Brotherhood of the Wolf, and then I had the great honor of working with him in Kazakhstan a few years later on a movie called Nomad. And then, of course, he did Shape of Water and all these great movies, and I'd seen that. And then I got to work with him on John Wick 3. So, he's obviously uber talented, and it's always a surprise and wonderful to see his work because he can adapt and change, and it always looks spectacular.
I am a big follower of the John Wick franchise. I think that series is so good. I think what Chad Stahelski has done for sort of mainstream action cinema has been phenomenal. Yourself, as somebody that has come from an action background and has done stunt work and stuff, how is it to be a part of this sort of groundbreaking franchise? It seems like a lot of fun.
It was a blast to work on, and it was a huge honor. Chad Stahelski, he himself is a fantastic stuntman and martial artist, and just an incredible artist all the way around. And I'm a huge Keanu Reeves fan, so to be invited to work on Wick 3 was, again, a huge honor and just a joy. And to work with people that are at the top of their game in every field, in whatever fields they're working in. Wow, it was really good pressure. It was really, really good pressure. It felt like a very intense roller coaster ride for the 3 months that I was working with them in New York, because Chad would often have everything blocked out for said action sequence or fight scene. I'm talking about the stuff that I was involved with. And then because he is a martial artist himself, and he's been doing stunts for years and this and that, he'd usually want to make some changes, on the spot, and doing it as soon as we're ready. So, it was always butterflies, but very exciting to work with him and them. Yeah. And I in my eyes, they have certainly set the bar very high for any and all action.
Yeah, definitely. And Zero is he's a great character. He's basically the audience, really. Like, by the third film, that's the reaction that Zero's reaction to John Wick is the same that the audience were. How was it playing the sort of fanboy conduit of the audience?
It was a joy. It was a joy. I remember when we had our first rehearsal, for the couch scene, and Chad said, "Hey, Keanu Dacascos, why don't you guys just do whatever you want, and then I will tweak or give you some direction afterwards. But just let me do whatever you guys want." And the script was wonderful, and the lines were that Zero says, "I'm a fan," and I just thought, wouldn't it be interesting if he's not just a fan, but he's a fan boy? Yeah. And so I didn't tell Keanu or Chad what I was going to do with the sitting part, So when we started rehearsal, action on rehearsal, Keanu walks in the room, and then he sits in the middle of the couch. And then, of course, any decent person with respect would sit, in the opposing chair, the opposite chair, right? But I thought, from Zero's point of view, this is maybe the first and only time he's going to have a private moment with Mr. Wick. And he's a huge fan, and he couldn't help himself. So I just thought, what, as an actor, I'm just going to try it. And I hope they let us finish it. And I hope that Chad and Keanu don't fire me immediately. So I walked in, and I stood by that chair, and and Keanu was looking, because we hadn't really worked together yet, right? This was it was our first or second night. We did the outside sidewalk scene, and then we did this. Yeah, so it was the first night of actually working together. So I slowly bypassed the seat, and I could feel his gaze, like, what is he doing? As the character and as Keanu. And then I kept on walking closer and closer and closer, and intentionally, like, put my butt up against his shoulder. And kudos to Keanu, because he stayed in character. I could see him, like, wondering what the heck, and also kind of trying not to smile. But I put my butt up against his shoulder, and then I slid the butt down his arm. And then I pressed up so close to him, and I just thought, this is what, I felt like this is what Zero would do. He gets to, actually physically touch the guy that he idolizes, so it was very serious. It wasn't funny. This was like, for real. This was an honor. So I just sat. And because Zero had the first line, Keanu couldn't say anything, right? And so I just stood there. I just sat there and just pressed up against him, like, inside as Zero, so happy. And then Keanu, I could feel Keanu, like, turn a little bit and realize that Zero wasn't going to do anything. So he gave that, and then he scooted over, which was great. And I still have the first line, so he couldn't say anything. So then he looks and Zero's not doing it. And then he moves over to the other chair. And then I slid over and then we start the scene, and huge kudos to Keanu, because I know it wasn't written like that, but he could have said, no, this is not working for me at any time. And he didn't. And Chad, same thing. He could have said, no, don't like it. But they let us play to the end of the scene, And at the very end, Chad said, cut on rehearsal. And then Keanu burst out in laughter and he was like, can we do that? That's too funny, right? That's too crazy. And then Chad comes in, he's not smiling. And I'm thinking, this is the part where Dacascos gets fired. And he comes in and he goes, not how I initially thought it should play, but I like it. Let's keep it. And I went, oh, huge joy. And so, when we did those scenes, Chad would, do the safe takes on the character. And then he'd direct me and say, hey, Dacascos, do some of the crazy, do the other version of Zero, And fortunately, that's the way that crazier Zero is the one they took for the film. So I am forever grateful to Keanu and Chad for letting me play and them encouraging me to do that, because it wasn't in the script, the words were, but the sensibility wasn't. So
yeah, I love the little touch as well where John walks off and he sort of says stay to the dog, but then Zero also sort of sits because John Wick's told him to stay. It's almost like he has become like his new sort of lap dog in a way.
There you go.
But I am very aware that our time is unfortunately sort of rapidly depleting. My final question would be for people who haven't watched Brotherhood of the Wolf before, who missed it the first time around, or maybe they weren't born yet or for whatever reason, why should they take a chance on this film?
Oh, I think they should take a chance on this film because it is so different, and it has so many elements combined. Like I said at the very beginning, it's so different. It crosses genres. It's on location. It's beautifully shot. Dan Lausten, thank you very much. Christophe Gans' sensibility, incorporating humor and romance and politics and drama, relationships is fantastic. And we have Monica Bellucci, Samuel Le Bihan, Jérémie Renier, Emily Decan, Vincent Cassel. We have an incredible cast, and it's shot, with the exception of one day on location. So there are so many reasons to watch this film, and I would be so grateful if they took a chance and did that.
Well, people definitely should. I wish you the best of luck with that, and I can't wait to see what future projects you do. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Zero can turn up in the John Wick prequel series or in Ballerina or something, maybe we can get him in there somewhere.
Thank you, Kat. Or maybe in a new episode of Erie, Indiana.
Yes. Yeah.
For you.
Yes. Let's bring the hashtag bring Erie, Indiana back. That's starts here.
I will mention it to Julie. Thank you so much for bringing that up.